Welcome to In Conversation with the Doctoral College. I'm Dr. Deborah Curitan and I'm the Research Development Manager at the University of Wolverhampton.
And I'm Dr. Ben Halligan. I'm Director of the Doctoral College.
We thought we'd do a vlog about setting up an exam room for Viva Voice. So if you're a chair or if you're an examiner in a Viva, what is the optimal room set up for the process so that the student doesn't feel uncomfortable?
Wow, it's an important question, and you typically would meet, so the chair and the examiners would meet maybe for an hour before the Viva begins with the student. And one thing that I think the chair should do, therefore, is to sort out how the room should be set up. And ideally as well, there's been some discussion maybe beforehand that the right room has been booked. So not a room that's with streams of students chatting outside or walking by, but somewhere that's a bit quieter. And not some cubby hole, but somewhere that's, a bit of space, I think. But I think that the first thing would be to avoid a kind of game of tennis for the student. Yeah. So to avoid having the student sat in one place and one examiner to his or her left and the other examiner to his or her right, so that they're fielding in stereo criticism, questions, either way. I would align the examiners maybe across the desk with the student, so you're not, as it were, distracting from the engagement that the student has to have with these examiners.
So you would perhaps have a square table with the examiners sat one side, the student at the other, perhaps the chair at the end. If the supervisory team are in, they obviously have to be out of sight of the student. And they usually come in with a copy of the thesis and make notes. So where would your advice be for them?
I think the supervisor can be in at the invitation of the postgraduate in most universities.
Yeah.
As a chair myself, I would do just what you said, which is to shove them out of the eye line of the student, because I have chaired some Vivas where over many years now, where the supervisor can be a bit of a distraction. They can pull faces, shake their head, nod vigorously, look perplexed, act out the responses they feel the student should be experiencing, and that's really unhelpful. And the supervisor, mustn't speak unless invited to speak first. So I would put the supervisor behind the student, so the supervisor can pull whatever faces they want, and the student won't be able to see this going on. Likewise, I think for the chair as well, again, when I've chaired, I've tried to put myself at some distance, so obliquely to the side, not the third examiner sat there glowering at the student, but I've tried to be at a place where they can forget about me, but I can still hear and see everything that's going on.
But you should be sat at the table, not sitting in the corner of the room reading a book.
Yes, I agree. So if you have the student here, and the examiner's across, as a chair you would perhaps be on the other side of the table, and then in that corner would maybe be the supervisor.
Okay. One of the things that I think is really important is the room that you choose. So at lots of universities in new builds, there's this kind of trend towards glass windows, glass doors. Those aren't useful for Vivas because people can look in, people can see, and they can guess what's going on.
Very important.
So I think it's about Vivas are conducted in the UK behind closed doors, and it's almost making it public by having it behind a glass door that, although it's closed, is completely open. And so, it can be distracting. You'll see people walking past, and obviously people walking past can see what's going on, and you'll, sort of have people looking in and trying to see what's going on. If you're anything like me, if you're a supervisor who perhaps might be a second supervisor and not in the Viva, or a supervisor if the student has chosen not to have you in, waiting outside. You don't want, the student doesn't want to see their supervisor kind of sat on the floor with a laptop waiting for them to come out. So think about the room. Also think about the size of the room. So I've chaired vivas that have been in very small rooms and very closely confined, and you've got 3 examiners, you've got a student, you've got the chair, you've got a supervisor. That's a lot of people to get into a small pod, for instance. It makes it uncomfortable. It's already an uncomfortable situation. The student's going to be anxious, so they're going to physically overheat. So you kind of need to not have a muggy space, but a space where people have got their own personal space to feel comfortable as well.
And it's an auspicious occasion. I mean, you're welcoming an external examiner who may be quite a big name in the field from another institution, maybe from abroad. So ideally, you've not got a room with wallpaper peeling off and wobbly tables and chairs, but you should really sort out one of the nicest rooms if that's possible. I think as well, it's good obviously to have some water, some glasses for the student, and whatever other bits and pieces they need. I mean, are they, do they need to plug something in? If it's a phone or something they need to charge, or if there's a computer they're going to use to make sure it's kind of logged on and ready to go before it's being used and things like that.
On the whole, we wouldn't have a student bringing in a
laptop,
computer into a doctorate. So we try not to encourage that. The flip side of that is, when people have vivas in classrooms, and they're massive, great big classrooms, that can also be quite intimidating, because there's a lot of space, empty space, that it can feel uncomfortable when you're in that sort of situation, because on a psychological level, you're in a situation that can be perceived as a threat situation, and if you're in threat mode, kind of space is dangerous. So thinking about the size of the room, not being too small, not being too big, is useful.
And lights as well. I mean, we have people who are going to spend some hours talking to each other in a quite intense fashion. Do we need all the lights on? If it's one of those horrible new office buildings, that might heat the room up. The glare may be too much. So I think knock out some of the backlights if they're not necessary. Just make sure you have the right level of illumination.
So think about the comfort of the student. Think about the size of the room. Think about who's going to be there and their position. Think about who's going to be in the student's eye line and who's going to be out of the student's eye line, and how that's done with comfort.
And maybe some sign on the door: examination in progress, do not enter.
Yeah, because occasionally people have.
I mean, these things sound trivial, but I think they're terribly important. And I think it really behoves a chair to drag tables and chairs around, sort out the lights, make sure the windows are open if need be. To really create a good zone in which this conversation can happen, because, some undergraduate wandering in because they have the wrong time for a lecture, or noise from outside, can really be quite damaging to the experience of the student who has spent some years getting to this point. So these are important matters.
So thank you for listening. We release vlogs of this nature every month. Do watch out for them. Do subscribe to our channel, because we do also deliver vlogs for postgraduate researchers that are useful not only for postgraduate researchers but also for supervisors as well. So please do subscribe, and if you've got any topics that you would like us to cover, or any questions you would like us to answer, do put them in the comments below.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.